Tonight, once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show on a little bit of a surprise broadcast, so to speak. Some breaking news. I spoke with the Gonzalez family over the last couple of hours, and I have a statement for you guys from the family, and I'll get into that here in a second. Before we start, I just want to say, thank you for all that is supporting us. Please like, please share this, please subscribe, the whole 9 yards. We appreciate that. We're on our way to 50K eventually. Come on, let's get us there. All righty. So with that being said, let's get into this. I got mentioned at the top of the show, and this is going to be brief. This isn't going to be something this isn't a long show. I normally don't do Mondays anymore. So I spoke earlier, I think this weekend, and we talked about how I was informed that there was a ruling in the change of venue, and that Bryan Kohberger and his judge were granted, or his judge, Bryan Kohberger and the defense were granted the change of venue. Now, I don't know where the venue is going to be at. I do know that the ruling has gone up to the Supreme Court for the state of Idaho State Supreme Court, and they're going to make a decision, I think, on where it's actually going to be taking place at. I don't know when that's going to be dropping. Once I get information about when that happens or where, the court's going to be taking place. Now, this isn't the first time that I break out news about courts and trials and hearings and other stuff before it's actually released out to the public. So I highly recommend you guys subscribe so you don't miss any of this and ring that notification bell. But once I do get notified that, hey, this is going to be the county where this is going to end up happening at, I'm going to go live on that day and I'll inform you guys that day as well. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the statement from the Gonzalez family. The family is incredibly disappointed in the judge's ruling granting the change of venue. The only good thing about this decision is it will be judge's last decision in this case. The family has always felt that the judge favored the defense, and it was a common theme that whenever the defense wanted or needed, they got. The written decision is even more informative. If the judge knew Latah County could not handle this trial for safety reasons, not enough county clerks, logistics, and lacking of space, why did we waste over a year in a county he knew was not going to handle the trial? The points he mentioned didn't all of a sudden jump up and bite him in the rear. Another issue was the poor cross-examination by the state of the defense expert witness. A judge can only rely on the evidence presented, and when you don't properly cross-examine expert witnesses or present any of your own, you are left relying on the opinions of the defense. Then let's not forget the massive contradiction of having a University of Idaho employee as an expert witness, Elisa Cover, and at the same time allowing Scott Green, the University of Idaho president, to write a book claiming to be an integral part of your investigation. Finally, what is the point of the non-dissemination order? Private hearings, closed tactics, allowing the defendant to be dressed in a suit for every televised hearing, etc., if not to keep the trial in Latah County. As victims' families, you are left to just watch like everyone else. You really have little rights or say in the process. And at the same time, you are the most vested in the outcome. We have always felt a fair and impartial jury could be found in Latah County, and to believe that is where the trial deserves to be held. to help the community heal. Thank you again for all your support and prayers. So that was from the family referencing, their thoughts on the change of venue and on the judge. It does sound that, since this court hearing has gone to the Supreme Court, it does seem like this will be Judge's final, hopefully. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but by all appearance, it appears that this probably is going to be the end for Judge in this court hearing. Now, I came out I think it was like on Saturday last week, and I explained to everybody how I thought that this judge was weak. I explained to everybody that I thought that he's allowed things that the defense has been able to exploit and try to create some sort of fake narrative that Bryan Kohberger is, I don't know, that there's some sort of scheme, or I don't know what it is, but, allowing things like the IGG to go as far as it has, right? And the cast as well. Like when the prosecution said that there are things that are irrelevant, like the probable cause affidavit, it's not necessarily that the probable cause affidavit is irrelevant because the stuff in it doesn't match the facts. That's not at all the case. What that means is that there is better evidence than what was taken from the probable cause that makes that evidence irrelevant. For instance, the DNA that's found on the sheath. Why is the IGG in question if, one, it wasn't used in any warrant or anything to get or to arrest Bryan Kohberger, wasn't used against him. It's not being used against him. And he's already been arrested using other evidence as probable cause for his arrest, which also other evidence granted the state to take a DNA sample of his mouth, or the swab of his cheek, which matched up. So who cares about all this IGG stuff? What difference does it make? Like I've said this from the beginning, throw it out. It's not even being used to begin with. I don't understand where this, all right, let's focus in on the IGG, which has been used in several other cases for a long time now, and has not had to disclose who the family members are, any of those type of things, because it's not admissible in court, and you can't use it for warrants. You can't use it for trial. You can't use it for anything. It's about as, it's worth about the same as a lie detector test. So that being said, I thought that was incredibly weak of the judge to allow all this bull crap about it. Like, it's not being used. So even if the defense had their way with the evidence, right? Let's say that they got the IGG and they looked through all of it and they found out that, hey, there was a chance that it could have been somebody else. Well, no, it couldn't have been, because the DNA swab from his mouth matched him. So, and this is, I don't understand why this is hard to understand. Maybe if those that close their ears because they're listening to somebody who doesn't think their hero is innocent, maybe try opening them a little bit. But the IGG, if the defense got their way, all they could do is say, all right, hey, look, we have the IGG. They looked at somebody they shouldn't have looked at. This person didn't sign the agreement that law enforcement can look at their stuff. All right. Well, that is a complaint a civil complaint against GED or whatever it was, Match 21. I don't know what it was. 24andMe. Whatever it was. Excuse me. That's a civil thing. You can go and sue them for that. They allowed law enforcement. It's not a legal thing. You get what I'm saying? It's not a lawful thing. And it's not illegal. Now let's just say the FBI did something wrong. So this is what would happen. All of the evidence gathered with the IGG would then be thrown out and couldn't be used in trial against Bryan Kohberger. It already isn't. It's not being used. They're not looking at it. And so I don't understand, why it's taking this long. And that's been one of my frustrations, with this judge. He's allowed that to go on the deadline for the alibi. Like, for those that don't know, Idaho has this law before they hand over the discovery. There's this 10-day window that the defense has to submit their alibi in if they want to use an alibi as a defense. That is in there. Now, if they don't submit this evidence into discovery or submit the alibi in, then they cannot use an alibi as a defense, right? And the reason why they have it this way, they set it up so where you have to enter your alibi before you get the defense or the discovery, is because it is, well, one, it's common sense, but two, you don't want a perpetrator to know everything that the prosecution has against you, so they can fabricate a story that fits that information. Now, we can look at the Alex Murdaugh case. Now, I was not aware of anything in the Alex Murdaugh case. I didn't follow it. I didn't know anything about his financial crimes. I didn't know anything. And that case was going on around the same time that, Bryan Kohberger was, his arrest and going on with everything else with him. Now, I started to watch the tail end of that hearing. Now, he had came up with a story, and I had no idea of any of the evidence about him, that he lied or that he changed his story, any of those things, because I hadn't watched all of the hearing. But when he came up with his story, he came up with one that was different than what he had came up with earlier. And that story he came up with matched what the evidence was there, right? They had, I guess, a Snapchat video of him, his voice down at the kennels, and he claimed he wasn't there. Now he had to create a story that put him there and had him leaving and still have this crime happen after he had left. And so, with that being said, that is what they're trying to prevent. And it's just common sense at the end of the day. It's all it is. It's just common sense. It's not an Idaho. I mean, it is an Idaho law, but it's a common sense law. And it's one across the entire nation where, all right. And this is the way you would want it too. Would you want somebody to commit a crime against you, and you have to, the prosecution have to tell them everything before they give their alibi? That way, like, come on, you'd be like, man, this guy's going to make up a story to say anything that fits the evidence. Like, it's just common sense. It's easy. So, BK is entitled to wear a suit. Well, not really. I mean, which other crime have you, or which other case have you seen where a perpetrator is wearing a suit for pre-trial hearings? It doesn't happen, right? Now, it happens in, when you go to the trial, but the pre-trial stuff, it don't happen. They're giving this guy special treatment, and they've been giving him special treatment this entire time. Judge, in my opinion, has acted like a guy that is scared. And that's just the truth, in my opinion. Cases, I've only ever seen him wear regular clothes when they're at trial. Exactly. That's only when they're at trial, not at the hearings. They have allowed him to, they've given him special treatment this entire time. And I think the Gonzalez family is absolutely right. What was the point of allowing him to wear these suits, or not allowing the courts to zoom in on his face, right? Or, basically gagging everybody, including the family's lawyer? What was the point of doing all that if the intention was to move the case somewhere else, or if the intention was not to have the case being tried in Latah County? It is what it is. But by the sounds of it, it don't seem like we're going to have to deal with this much, much longer. And I think that's going to end up being the benefit. I think at the end of the day, this is another mistake by the Bryan Kohberger defense team. They made mountains of mistakes by not going to trial early, by waiving his speedy trial. That was a huge mistake. The 3 DNAs, remember everybody was talking about? I only bring this up because I still have people in the comment section that talk about it. But in one of the last hearings, the prosecution, we spoke about it. We made a big deal about it. But the prosecution had came forward and stated at the end of the hearing that they had done the additional DNA testing at the request of the defense which the DNA testings were requested, were unknown, or brought up by the defense, and those were the 3 that were unknown. 2 inside of the house somewhere, 1 outside in a glove. So they allowed for that to be cleared up. Let's just say they went through it. They did the genealogy on those guys, and let's just say they found out who was the owner of those DNA samples, and now they can clear them. Now, that is not a plausible explanation for his defense, so he can't use that anymore. The issues with the cast. Now, I don't think it's worthy of anything. They brought up Gladiator, which talks about, which is like the GPS chip and stuff like that. And so that is more relevant than any cast ping that they would have had back in December of 2022. You know, it's what they have that's stronger that makes the most sense. And so, yeah, bunch of stuff there. So you guys have any questions or comments? Let me know. Put a couple stars there. That way I can see them. This ain't going to be that long of a show tonight. I just kind of wanted to let you guys know a couple things that were going on. But yeah, back to what I was saying. So now they want to move out of the county, right? They want to move out of Layton County, but now they lose their favorable judge too. Hopefully they get one that's a little bit more down the middle, so to speak. JJ hasn't act scared. Well, I mean, it sounds like he's no longer going to be the judge in this case, and it sounds like it was at his recommendation or suggestion. I think he copped out. I think that the reason why he decided to transfer the case out and give it to in the hands of the Supreme Court is because he couldn't do the case, couldn't do it, couldn't handle it. He's not going to be the judge no more. So maybe he just weaseled his way out of it too. I mean, there's that possibility as well. And what is he scared of? Maybe he's just scared that something's going to happen that's going to allow a quadruple homicide suspect go free and be based off of a decision he made versus him being actually innocent. So I think that's what he's scared of. He's scared of the fact that he's going to screw this up. And by doing that, I think he's screwing it up. But fortunately, Bryan Kohberger's defense team is clueless to context clues, and they don't see the writing on the wall, and they're choosing to go somewhere else, hopefully with a more leaner or stern judge, one that's going to say, hey, we want your full alibi by this certain date, or you're not going to use it. And by the way, defense team, you have by this, 10 days after that date to turn over all the discovery, or else we're going to have a problem, and put an actual deadline on both sides. So that way this thing can start moving in the right direction. It is a circus. It's not in control right now. And I think the best thing that happened to this case is Ann Taylor asking for it to be moved so they can get out of this weak judge and allow all this crap and get this thing going in the right direction. I hope the new judge has an iron fist. I do too. Let's see. If the jury's not there in these hearings, though, my man. That's the thing. There isn't a jury here in these hearings. This is a pre-trial hearing, so there's no I would agree with you if there was a jury there, but there isn't. And now that they're moving this from somewhere else, I don't know when they move it or how this works, or if the next couple of hearings are going to be there. But all right, let's just say they move it to Ada County. Where are they going to hold Kohberger at? I bet you it's a much bigger facility than where he's at right now. They probably have some, some hardened criminals in these facilities compared to what he's been, compared to what he has in Moscow and their county facilities. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe his. Remember how Richard Allen was like, "Oh man, I can't wait. I need to go somewhere smaller." Well, maybe Bryan Kohberger will find himself in one of those type of situations. When does all involved get arrested? Oh, they already have been. Bryan Kohberger has been arrested. If you haven't seen or haven't heard, that happened a couple years ago. Can the change of the judge make the defense start screaming about needing more time since venue and judge will change? Now, why does the judge changing have to do with the way you're, not asking you, but I don't think so, because what would the judge changing have to do with the way you're trying the case? Even the location of it, that makes no difference. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that they will, but I'm sure they're going to try to push the envelope with whatever judge they get in the beginning. And I hope this judge is one that is more experienced and knowledgeable and with a spine to put a bunch of this crap to an end. Let's see. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think this probably is going to be another ruling that Bryan Kohberger is going to look back at and say, maybe we shouldn't have done that one. This is true. And this is all, and Richard Allen, the way he's being treated is because, or dressed, so to speak, is because these are pretrial. If he ends up going to court, trial, I don't think he'll be wearing, the yellow jumpsuit and stuff like that. Let's see. Does the new judge preside over the motion hearings? Now, I believe so. I believe everything will go into the new judge. I think there will probably be some sort of hearing. They're going to have to transfer Kohberger to this new place as well. Like I said, maybe, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for, man, because you might just get it. And you might be seeing what your new home looks like for the next 20 some odd years of your life. Because, I know how the appeals are going to work. And it's going to be a while before his sentence is executed, but it'll eventually happen. Let's see. That's not true. Not everybody watches TV and not everybody watches everything. Not everybody's on YouTube. If you saw him in the orange jumpsuit, so did the jury. No, that's not true at all. In fact, I think there was like 40 some odd % of Moscow's population that hadn't seen him on TV or anything like that. So yeah, I think they had well enough people to pull for a jury. But yeah, people get in this like mind frame, like movie mind frame, right? Where you have a cast and everybody that's known is somewhat involved in a show, right? So if you have a cast in a movie, everybody has a part, everybody has everything. And people tend to think or have this thought that, everybody's either watching the same thing that they're watching because they're watching it, or that the people that are involved in this case are only the people that they're aware of because there's nobody else involved in the case or in the city. There's only like 30 people in Moscow. That's not the case. It's not the case. Maybe with the new more victims' families will attend. Now, you see, I think this is what the problem was. I think that the real reason why Bryan Kohberger's defense team is trying to move this court hearing as far as possible is in hopes that the victims' families don't attend. Right? I think that they're hoping that, and obviously they're going to attend some of them. But how many more would they have attended if it was closer to Coeur d'Alene or towards Moscow or anything like that, right? I think that the families probably would attend a larger percentage of the hearings or the trial. And the least amount of times that those jurors have to see a sobbing, family member or those emotions, those raw emotions coming from the family members, is beneficial to Bryan Kohberger. The less they're in there. That's just fact. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to move this as far as possible to limit them and their appearances at the trial. That's what it is. In my opinion. Let me add that. My opinion. I'm sure the university is happy to move this case. I'm sure they are. But how happy are they going to be, come when everything is said and done? And I don't know. I mean, based on the last part of what I read from the statement, about the university, Scott Green and his book and, Elisa cover, I wouldn't be surprised. And I would probably recommend this to those family members of the victims that if any of this stuff ends up coming to light to be true, and if Bryan Kohberger actually and did utilize, like, let's just say he got into the WSU building, like it's been alleged, and utilized things to commit this crime, and they didn't find out about it, or they didn't know about it, or whatever the case may have been, man, I'd sue the crap out of these places. I really would. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do. I have no idea. I don't talk about that stuff. I don't talk about finances with them. I don't talk about any of those things. I don't ask them much, to be honest with you. I let them tell me, what it is that they want me to say or not say, or whatever the case may be. I don't want to violate any trust or anything like that. And it's not my place, to be honest with you, when it comes to certain things. But if I were them, I would be. I definitely would, especially, Scott Green and all this other stuff that's going on that could potentially, have an effect on this trial. I would. Let's see. Please find out about Taylor Avenue. Hold on. Where did that go? It escaped me. There it is. Please find out about Taylor Avenue. Call for service. States the ex has been stalking him, coming from Pennsylvania to Moscow, maybe October 2022. I'd have a look. Huh. Well, stalking him. That's okay. Wow. Yeah. Send me some information on that. I don't know anything about that, to be honest with you. James asks, is this case being moved to Boise? I don't know. I know that the change of venue was granted, and I know that it went to the Supreme Court. So typically that means it's changing districts. So it's obviously going to be moved somewhere outside of District 2, I believe. And the good thing about it is outside of District 2 is outside of judges, control. So it'll be a new judge. Will it cost the taxpayers more money to have it moved? Probably. The state of Idaho, the citizens of Idaho are definitely going to have to pay for this. You believe that a huge drug ring went down after all this? Taylor Judge Thompson. No. Like, this whole thing about drugs is just silly. Like, I would use other words, but I'm trying to be respectful. Like, they downloaded the phones of everybody in that house, right? And including Bryan Kohberger after his arrest. Like, if there was any hint of drug activity on anybody's phones, like, hey, we're going to purchase this, or we want to sell this, or hey, you're missing my money, or whatever the case may have been, it would have been found. Drug stuff is the most simplest and easiest crimes to figure out. There's no thought behind them. It's usually done by not the most intelligent of peoples. And, it's in the act and yada, 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 right? And there's a lot of evidence. It's not like people come together and say, hey, let's get burner phones or when we meet each other and never contact each other. It doesn't make any sense. Like the whole thought about it being drugs is just silly. Again, I would love to use other words. It really is. The fact that people think that somebody flushed drugs down that were worth a lot of money. Any type of amount of money like that, you're talking that amount of money, or even cartels, they don't just leave drugs like that in the hands of kids that are partying with 150 people there. They leave that in the house where there's not only people that they control in that house, but they also have other people in that house that they also control too, but by other means. Now, it's just stupid. It's flat out stupid to think that that's what occurred, that there's this drug ring that nobody knows about. The FBI is hiding it. So is the Idaho State Police. And where does Bryan Kohberger come into play on this? It's just, oh my God, it's just ridiculous. It's the most dumbest idea that I have ever heard. To still think that that's the case. Like, again, please just go look in the mirror and say that out loud. Say, oh yeah, the police did this. I mean, if that is and they're hiding drug dealers. Like, if you think that's logical, my God, I'm worried about where our nation is, or where we are as human beings. I know it's not just from our nation, but my God, Seriously, with all the evidence that's out there, what are you thinking? You're thinking, what? Oh man, I think what some people say, oh, it's the money, follow the money. What money came out of this? Where's the money at that came out of this? If you wanted to, take out four people because they don't want to sell your drugs anymore. All right, where are they getting now? Where they're selling the drugs at? Are there any drugs coming out of in and out of that house now that they're no longer there? No, because the house ain't there. Like, the ideas that people have about this and circle around it are so idiotic. It's just unbelievable. I digress. I don't want to get myself worked up. And I'm not blaming you, Lupe. I'm not saying that it's you at all. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but yeah, it's ridiculous. What's the Scott Green situation? I know he wrote a book. I haven't read the book, but he was part of, I think he was like the dean or something at university, or the president of the University of Idaho. And he had daily briefings with police about the case. Apparently, I don't know. I think that's what he wrote in his book. I honestly thought what he meant by that was the debriefings of what the police activity was going to be happening in his school. Hey, we're going to have these many people coming in. We're going to have these many people coming out. Have officers stationed here, there, talk about these people. Hey, we have to come up with a plan, maybe to have some sort of meeting, see if we can look at people's hands. You have to be kind of open in those type of things, and not necessarily the details of the case, but I don't know what exactly it is that he knew. You know what I mean? Sunny Struck says, why is everyone making such a big deal about moving it? I've never seen such a case where people whine so much about a venue change. I think it's because of the fact that the families here and the tactic behind the defense's motives behind it. You call it whining. I call it unfortunate for the victim's family members. And I see that you're being distasteful and pretty rude, to be honest with you. But I think that's where a lot of people's dissatisfaction are with this case. And as far as moving it, I was never opposed to it, to be honest with you. I thought he was guilty here, he'd be guilty there, anywhere, right? But thinking about it and then uncovering the possible why, right? Because there was a study done, and this study showed that there are other counties that are not Ada County that are less biased and less people that know about it, and yet he's choosing to go over there where there's more people that are biased, more people that think he's guilty, versus like Nez Perez or any of the other counties that are nearby Latah that aren't that far away. And so my thought was initially, why was he be doing that? One, maybe perhaps he's hoping that he'd get a better chance of getting somebody who doesn't like the death penalty out there in Boise versus one of these smaller communities, which logically that makes sense. And the other thing is, too, to get as far away as possible from the victim's family members. That way, in efforts to limit their ability to make it to the hearing, so that way the jury doesn't see them, doesn't see the emotion or anything like that. So for those reasons right there, plus the fact that the problems that the prosecution had brought up about moving the evidence so far away, there's a chain of custody issue. Then you have, only one evidence tech taking 51 terabytes worth of evidence out there. It's going to take some time. This is going to delay even more. And that's where it becomes a problem. So I don't know. I think that there is such a thing that the victims' families do deserve their justice within a time frame as well. And I think Kohberger's kind of taking advantage of this. Thank you so much there, Sirius. Appreciate that. Let's see. Dirty money. Yeah. Makes the most sense. Let's see. If you think the murders were all about drugs, I'm sorry. But you were on. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And maybe that's why they think, I don't know. Why would they talk about drugs over the phone? I made plenty of drug deals when I was that age, and never once talked about it on the phone. Rule 1. I'm assuming you're also not 18 right now, right? You know what they do on the phone? And plus, again, my man, like, people right now aren't, people are naive. You know what I mean? Like, we had a murder happen out here in San Antonio where this one lady, She was pregnant, right? She was supposed to go into labor, and she was supposed to be induced. And I think it was like the day after Christmas or something like that, or the day before Christmas. And she didn't show up, and they couldn't find her or the boyfriend. Everybody was assuming the boyfriend did something. Long story short, they ended up finding her body, and both of them were shot. And come to find out, she had set up a drug deal. They went to go sell some drugs, and something happened, and boom, boom, boom. They found out immediately. This guy took their phones. The person that killed them took their phones, took all their, took stuff away. They were able to download their phones off the iCloud, and they were able to determine immediately that this was a drug deal. Like, it's not that hard to figure out, right? Like, it isn't. It's very easy to figure out. These people put it all over their phones too. We're using something called WhatsApp. Anything you put on your phone, whether it's restricted or supposedly hidden or whatever the case may be, can be pulled out. There's this, I guess, thought that you can put things on WhatsApp or Snapchat and you won't be able to recover it. And that's not the truth. It is what it is. And so, and that may be the rule back in the day, but nowadays, when you're looking at 21-year-olds and you're looking at 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds, they live off their phone. Everything is done off their phone. Nobody anticipates on getting caught. Nobody thinks that, oh yeah, I'm going to get caught. They're going to go through my phone and figure out who my contacts are, this, that, and the third. I mean, look what happened with Caden Young, right? He ends up passing away. They end up arresting Demetrius and Emma Bailey right away. Now, in my opinion, they narked. I mean, I don't know anybody else who gets arrested for murder, with the outcome of some kind of drug-related incident where they went out and actually supposedly supplied these drugs from someone else and then get off scot-free without any charges, without talking. Now, they've disappeared, obviously, probably because they can't be seen anywhere near there because of what they said. Those things are easy to figure out. Those things are really quickly are solvable. The fact that this case took so long to find should have told you that this wasn't the case. There was a situation out in California where a family of 4 were executed, and immediately, based on the scene, based on the message that drug dealers and drug cartels actually do send, it was fairly obvious within a couple of hours. It was reported that, in fact, I think it was actually within a couple of minutes. I think within 30 minutes, it was reported that the assault was drug related, and they were looking for, somebody from ex cartels and stuff. Like, I don't know what fantasy world you live in where you think that, oh man, they're going to hide from the drug dealers, the FBI and Idaho State Police and Moscow Police Department, and try to pin this on a PhD student. The idea of pinning this on a PhD student is just stupid too. Like, it is. Like, if you truly think that they're framing this guy, like, you have no future and no thoughts. Like, you just put the phone down. I totally agree that the only reason I cared about the venue was so the victims' families could go to the trial. In the grand scheme of things, justice is really what it's about, no matter where it is. I agree 100%. Let's see. Do I plan on going to the trial really soon? I do. I do plan on going, depending on when and where it's at. Obviously, if it ends up being moved again and it's interferes with my daytime job, right? Well, in full transparency, I have multiple jobs, guys. I have a full-time gig, and I got like 3 or 4 other jobs that I do, and not including this one. I consider this one a job at times because it really is some hard work. But what do you call it? It depends. So if it's in the summer, like it's supposed to be, I should be able to get out there for at least a little part of it. Let's see. Oh my God. And so let's just say, so Emma and Demetrius were in the wrong jurisdiction. That is why charges was to be filed in King County. DA messed up. So does that mean that the regular county can't file charges? So just because the wrong county, according to you, the wrong county did this, the right county still can. It's within the time frame, right? The statute of limitations on a murder Is it forever? And there is no statute of limitations on a murder, but most felonies, I think it's like 7 years. So they still have time. They still have time. But yes, can you imagine all the people that would be involved to keep that quiet? Drunk Turkey Show. I know that the defense and the prosecution. Hold on 1 second. I need to get a drink. All right. California Dreamer says, I know that the defense and prosecution said BK wasn't stalking the Idaho 4. Do you think he was surveilling them? Well, the defense has said that. The prosecution said, they brought up one of the questions that was being asked in the deal there in the survey, which was that they were stalking him. And afterwards, after that hearing, he explained what he was referring to. So there's usually some documentation that goes with each hearing, what happened, yada, 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 or what they're looking for. And in the documents after that hearing, Bill Thompson explained that the stalking he was referring to was on social media. But since then, I think there's been, and that's just my opinion, and from what I've heard, so I think it's pretty true, but I could be wrong. But since then, I heard that a connection has been found through the Andrew Garrett documents, and that maybe perhaps he was following them on social media after all, at least some of them. Let's see. I doubt King County will charge. They basically legalized drugs and see. Yeah, but somebody died, which is the difference, right? I mean, yeah, they've got a lot of problems there and stuff like that, but somebody died. There's a huge difference in the situation, and it's not somebody from that is local from the area that they're afraid that they won't get votes from, right? So I think one of the main issues why people don't get charged out there for drugs and stuff like that is because they're afraid that, felonies on those people would lose their votes and, they won't be able to control things in that area. And so these people aren't from there. Let's see. The Gonzalez family said themselves in an interview they went to KG's IG and MM's and saw BK there like their picks many times over. I'm not sure of that. I've spoken to them about the profile, the online profile and stuff like this. What they told me was before one of the celebrations of life, I think this was like late December, right before Bryan Kohberger was arrested. So he hadn't been arrested yet. They got a call from law enforcement and they told them that they knew who committed this crime, that he was in Pennsylvania and his name was Bryan Christopher Kohberger. They were on their way to the celebration of life when they got this information. So what they did was they, I believe it was one of the family members, I don't remember who, had gone onto their, onto Instagram and a bunch of other places and looked up Bryan Kohberger, and they found his profile, took a bunch of screenshots of his profile. Now, this is before he was arrested and before the world knew who Bryan Kohberger was. And then on this profile, he was following Maddie and Kaylee, and I think even Xana. And so this profile that they have screenshots of, I believe is the same profile that Andrew Garrett has discovered. I've seen stuff that makes me believe that because I've seen screenshots of the profile, not from the Gonzalez family, but from other places as well. And I've also seen the Andrew Garrett documents, which also look the same. I think it's the same thing that I'm seeing. So, yeah, I do think that was true. And it's concerning. It's concerning that law enforcement didn't find that, or prosecution didn't have that or didn't see that. So maybe perhaps moving this out of this jurisdiction and out of this area is probably for the best. Now, I don't know if the prosecution changes. I don't think so. I think it's going to be Bill Thompson and them because it's still a Moscow case. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You're welcome. You're welcome. All righty, guys. Let's see. Were you updated on the Andrew Garrett doc, or do you mean from what we last heard from forensic frenzy giving them the info. I'm not sure what you mean. I knew about the Gonzalez family seeing that profile, and I had seen that profile well before I knew about the Andrew Garrett talk. Like years ago, long time ago. All righty, guys. I think that's going to end up doing it for me. Hold on one second. I hit the wrong button, and like all these things are going crazy on my screen right now. I saw something I really, really want to bring up. There it is. Our Steelers won. Ugly. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Go Steelers, go black and gold. For those that don't know, I'm a huge Steelers fan. All righty, guys. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in. Please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe button. Again, it appears that Judge will no longer be presiding over this case. It'll be going to a different district. We'll see who else will be providing, and I hope to see a stronger, firmer justice system moving forward, a much swifter movement as well. Hopefully we get this court on the road. Let's get this justice. Let's get justice handed pretty soon. You guys have a great night. I'll be back on Wednesday. Don't forget, guys, I'm going to be interviewing former drug smuggler turned snitch, Ken Bear. You don't want to miss it. Peace.